The dilemma of man's ideological pursuits. The history of mankind is a series of choices for abstract and transcendental ideas over the concrete and immediate realities of daily life, and in their idealistic perspectives these choices have formed the fundamental institutions of society. This historical trend suggests that our civilizations are not only products of material conditions, but are deeply embedded in the metaphysical, religious, and philosophical frameworks we create. If these belief systems appear to be disconnected from the empirical world, they are the blueprints for societies to operate, to determine ethics and to organize their collective future. It is important to understand this dynamic in order to appreciate how human consciousness interacts with the objective environment. The orientation to the transcendental. Man's tendency to look beyond the mundane is an innate search for meaning. People have oriented their lives toward the infinite, the divine, or the utopian, not just survival or the physical environment, in the past. This transcendental orientation is the basis of social cohesion. When large groups subscribe to a shared vision that exists outside of immediate physical reality, they form a unified culture. These belief systems provide a necessary vocabulary for moral behavior and social regulation, which, ironically, makes it possible to stabilize the very material lives they seem to disregard. We lift our worries above the imminent and gain a sense of permanence and purpose. This historical pattern demonstrates that our social reality is more the product of symbolic interpretation than of raw data. And as we move further with our technology and science, the power of these abstract foundations still has its sway. This is an indication that the urge to relate to the beyond is a defining element of the human experience. The making of social life. Social life as we know it is in essence a performance of our collective ideologies. Societies develop complex mechanisms to reconcile the two, for these ideologies are often incongruent with the strict limits of reality. It's a constant negotiation between what we believe to be true and what the world shows us to be true. The stability of a society depends on its ability to sustain these myths, legends, and political ideologies that give life a sense of internal coherence, regardless of the fluctuations in external circumstances. Shared narrative societies are based on myths that set out the rules for the distribution of power and the ways in which individuals relate to the state. Value systems. These abstract frameworks define what is considered virtuous, successful, or honorable, guiding human action toward goals that are not purely biological or economic. Institutional resilience. Societies tend to revert to these deep-seated ideological states of mind in times of crisis rather than immediately changing their empirical tactics, which demonstrates that the abstract is often more real than the physical threat. The continued existence of these odd states of mind speaks to their utility. They give a predictable reality in an unpredictable world. By prioritizing the transcendent, humans have historically constructed structures that allow for long-term planning, social hierarchy, and the development of complex ethical codes, all of which would be difficult to sustain if focus remains strictly on the fleeting, imminent present. Bridging ideology and reality. It is the friction between our ideological structures and the real constraints of the natural world that produces an ongoing historical process. In any case, as of May 2026, the digital age has merely accelerated the pace at which we build, share and contest these narratives. Today, ideologies are proliferating in virtual spaces, abstracting our existence even more from the physical environment. This detachment is not making our social lives less meaningful, but rather it is intensifying the force of our belief systems. The task for modern society is to reconcile the necessity of our transcendental drives with the undeniable demands of our ecological and social reality. Critical reflection. We need to acknowledge that our perception of truth is often shaped by traditional belief systems that may no longer correspond to current evidence. Flexible frameworks. The societies that thrive tend to be those that can adapt their core beliefs without abandoning the basic symbols that bind their citizens together. The power of synthesis. In the future, the most resilient social arrangements will be those that successfully synthesize our high-minded aspirations with the practical needs of a sustainable, global civilization. Synthesis final. The story of civilization, after all, is the story of the human imagination acting on the world. We make the abstract concrete, building our societies on ideals beyond our reach. This process is a source of huge creative potential and a potential site of instability. By admitting that our social structures are built on such ideological foundations, we gain the capacity to better understand, evaluate, and evolve our systems to better serve both our intellectual yearnings and our physical needs. In a nutshell, the reason that social life is so enduring, although in many cases paradoxical, is the tendency of humans to live through the prism of transcendental ideologies. They're not always accurate about the physical reality of our environment, but they are the necessary glue that holds civilizations together. By recognizing that our social world is a human creation, shaped by our search for deeper meaning, we can start a more conscious and constructive engagement with our ideas, and the reality they create. The human pursuit of ideology paradox. The history of mankind is a series of choices for abstract and transcendental ideas over the concrete and immediate realities of daily life, and in their idealistic perspectives these choices have formed the fundamental institutions of society.